Every morning, thousands of flights take off from airports around the world. Each one is a careful dance of machines, people, and trust. We trust the engines. We trust the metal. We trust the bolts that hold everything together. It is 5:47 in the morning. Flight 802 is a wide-body passenger jet carrying over 280 people. Today it is flying from the coast of one continent to another, crossing many hours of open ocean. The aircraft is a twin-engine plane. Each engine is as tall as a small car. Together, they make a force so powerful that 280 tons of metal and passengers can rise into the sky and stay there for 10 hours without stopping. The two pilots, Captain David Oren and First Officer Sarah Belk, go through their checks one by one. Every switch. Every dial. Every light. This routine is long, and it is boring on purpose. The boring parts keep you alive. At 6:02 a.m., Flight 802 lines up on the runway. The engines grow louder. The pilots release the brakes. The aircraft rolls, slowly at first, then faster still. In under 40 seconds, 280 tons of machine lifts off the ground and climbs into the early sky. Everything is normal. For 2 hours and 19 minutes, everything stays normal. At 38,000 feet, Flight 802 is far from land. Below is nothing but deep blue ocean. Above is the thin cold air of the upper sky. This is the loneliest place in the world to have a problem. Inside the cabin, a flight attendant named Marcus is pouring orange juice when he hears it. Not a sound. A feeling. A deep, violent shake, like the ground cracking open, followed by a sound so loud that several passengers later describe it as a bomb. Engine 2 has exploded. Not a small failure. Not a shutdown. An explosion. The front section of the engine, a spinning disc called a turbine stage, has broken apart. Pieces of spinning metal, some as heavy as a brick and moving at the speed of a rifle bullet, punch through the metal shell of the engine and fly outward in all directions. This is called an uncontained engine failure. The broken pieces were not kept inside the engine. They escaped. And when they escaped, they did damage. One piece of debris cut through a bundle of hydraulic lines running under the left wing. Hydraulic fluid is the blood of an aircraft. It powers the control surfaces, the flaps, the spoilers, the parts of the wing and tail that the pilots use to steer and slow down. When that fluid starts to leak, the aircraft becomes harder to control. As the fluid drains, it becomes harder still. In the cockpit, alarms are going off everywhere. The master warning light is flashing red. The engine 2 fire handle is lit. Multiple hydraulic warnings have appeared on the screen. Captain Oren, engine 2 failure, engine fire. Pulling the handle. Sarah, hydraulics. Tell me what we have. First Officer Belk, left hydraulic system, pressure dropping. We are losing fluid. Right system, still good. Center system, reduced. The aircraft is now flying on one engine. This is something it was designed to do. All modern passenger jets can fly on a single engine. But losing hydraulics is a different problem. It is not about power. It is about control. Think of hydraulics like the muscles in your arm. You can tell your brain to lift a heavy box, but if the muscles stop working, nothing happens. The pilots can move the controls with their hands, but if the hydraulic fluid is gone, the aircraft's control surfaces will not move. Over the next hour and 23 minutes, the two pilots fight to keep 281 people alive. They have one engine. They have partial hydraulic control. They are over an ocean, for hours from land, but an emergency airport exists on a small island 68 minutes away if they turn around and descend slowly. They make the turn. The aircraft is also vibrating badly. An unbalanced broken engine shakes everything, like a washing machine with all the clothes on one side. For the passengers, this vibration is constant and deeply frightening. In the cabin, Marcus and the other flight attendants are preparing people for an emergency landing. Some passengers are crying. Some are praying. One man in row 14 takes out a piece of paper and begins writing a note to his family. At 9:44 a.m., Flight 802 touches down on the short runway of the island airport. Captain Oren applies maximum braking. The aircraft shakes and slows, and stops. 281 people walk off the aircraft. Not a single serious injury. The investigation begins before the dust has settled. A team from the NTSB arrives within hours. Their job: find out exactly what happened, and why. The engine is a destroyed machine. From the outside it looks like a crushed metal drum caught in a fire. But investigators do not see wreckage. They see evidence. Every piece is photographed before it is touched. Every fragment is numbered, collected, and placed in marked containers. This takes days. The full investigation will take more than a year. The team checks every possible cause: a bird strike, a manufacturing defect, fuel problems, oil problems, maintenance errors. One by one, they cross them off. The investigators begin to rebuild the engine on a large table, placing each fragment in the position it would have occupied. It is like a three-dimensional puzzle with thousands of pieces, many of them burned, bent, or missing completely. Then, on the fourth day, a technician finds something in the wreckage. It is a bolt. Or rather, part of a bolt. The piece is about 3 inches long, roughly half of what it should be. On one end, clean metal from the original manufacturing. On the other end, a rough, grainy texture. Not torn violently, but broken slowly, the way metal breaks when it has been pushed and pulled thousands of times, over a long period of time. The investigators know immediately what they are looking at. The bolt is 6 inches long. It weighs less than a mobile phone. It holds one component of the turbine disc assembly to another. It is, in theory, one of the simplest parts of the entire machine. And yet this one small bolt is the reason 281 people nearly died over the ocean. The bolt is sent to a metallurgical laboratory. Scientists cut it in half and put it under a powerful microscope. What they find has a name: metal fatigue. Metal fatigue is not dramatic. It does not happen suddenly. Every time the engine spins up and spins down, the bolt is pulled and pushed slightly. Each cycle is tiny. But over thousands of cycles, over years of service, tiny cracks begin to form inside the metal. These cracks grow slowly with each new cycle. The growing crack makes the bolt weaker. The weaker bolt develops cracks faster. It is a cycle that ends in only one way. Under the microscope, the broken surface tells a clear story. Thin lines in the metal, called beach marks, are visible, like the lines that water leaves on a beach as the tide goes out. Each line is from one cycle of stress. There are hundreds of them. Then in the center, a rough, grainy, sudden area. This is where the final break happened. When the crack grew large enough, the remaining healthy metal could no longer hold the load. It gave way all at once. And in that instant, the turbine disc was no longer held. Centrifugal force, the enormous outward force of a disc spinning at thousands of rotations per minute, tore it apart. The investigation now turns to the maintenance records. The aircraft had undergone a maintenance inspection 14 months before the accident. The records show the engine was partially disassembled. The turbine section was examined. The bolts were listed as checked. But there is a problem. The 6-inch bolt was checked using only a visual inspection. A person looked at it. A visual inspection can find surface cracks. But metal fatigue cracks often start deep inside the metal, where the human eye cannot see. The maintenance manual for that engine required eddy current testing on those specific bolts, a method that detects subsurface cracks. The record suggests that step was never completed. The crack in the bolt had probably been forming for over 3 years. Multiple inspections happened during that time. None of them found it, because none of them used the method that would have detected it. The conclusion reached is not one of malice. It is something quieter and more troubling, a misunderstanding of the maintenance manual, combined with time pressure, combined with a failure of supervision. How could one 6-inch bolt destroy an engine the size of a small car? A modern jet engine turbine disc spins at roughly 10,000 to 15,000 rotations per minute, between 160 and 250 full rotations every single second. At those speeds, a bolt weighing 200 grams experiences centrifugal force equivalent to many tons. This is why turbine bolts must be perfect. Not almost perfect. Perfect. The fragments that left Engine 2 on Flight 802 were traveling at an estimated 400 to 600 meters per second. That is faster than the speed of sound. At that speed, a fragment the size of a dinner plate can cut through an aluminium wing, through hydraulic lines, and, had the angle been slightly different, through the fuselage and the passengers inside it. The aircraft's designers had placed the hydraulic lines in locations designed to survive such an event. They had used redundant systems so that losing one would not mean losing all control. These design choices, made years before Flight 802 ever flew, are part of why 281 people are alive today. But designers can only do so much. At a certain point, the chain of protection depends on maintenance. On the person holding the flashlight over a bolt. On whether they are using the right technique. On whether they have enough time. On whether their supervisor checked. The NTSB released its final report 14 months after the incident. The cause, an uncontained engine failure from a turbine disc retention bolt fractured by metal fatigue, due to inadequate inspection during a scheduled maintenance event. In simpler words, a bolt cracked slowly over years, a maintenance team did not check it using the required method, and on a quiet morning over the ocean, the crack finally reached the end of its long, silent journey. The FAA issued a new directive requiring eddy current inspection of that type of bolt on all similar engines. The maintenance facility revised its training. The engine manufacturer updated its documentation to make the inspection requirement impossible to misread. Captain Oren and First Officer Belk received commendations. When asked what he thought about when the engine exploded, Captain Oren said he did not have time to think about anything except the next item on the checklist. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall back on what you practiced. And if you practiced enough, what you fall back on is enough to save everyone. The man in row 14, the one who began writing a note to his family, was interviewed 6 months after the flight. He said he never finished the note. When the aircraft landed safely, he put it in his pocket and did not look at it again. He said he threw it away when he got home. Every aircraft that flies today is a product of lessons learned from aircraft that did not. Every regulation, every inspection requirement, every emergency procedure was written because something went wrong somewhere, once. Flight 802 did not end in tragedy. But the lessons it taught are the same. The crack grows in the dark, slowly, in silence, where no one can see it, until someone decides to look.